Hey, hey, hey. All right. So I went live earlier, but nobody could hear me. And I didn't know because nobody was telling me until Miss Eileen Smith came on. So I'll just wait for a few minutes and share this live stream. All right. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So yes, as you all know, every time you try to be great on the internet, technical issues come in. So I was talking and talking for almost 30 minutes, and unfortunately, it didn't work out for the first one. So please, if you can hear me, just either drop me an emoji in the comments and let me know if you can hear me. Today, I'm giving you 5 tips on writing and selling your first or next ebook online. Okay, 5 tips on creating or writing and selling your first or next ebook online. Okay, as a writer, I really do believe that selling ebooks is one of the greatest ways to make money online. Um, and if you are a writer, or even if you're not a writer, but you have considered selling online, then this is something that you should consider doing. Okay. All right. So I'd love it if you shared this out. Just give me a moment. I'm going to also share this out. Um, since the first one wasn't as successful as I thought it was. So just a minute. All right. All right. Okay. So 5 tips for creating and selling your first or next ebook. All right. So yesterday I was having a conversation with somebody in my Facebook community, and she had mentioned that she would love to sell ebooks. She would like to write and sell ebooks. And I asked her, well, what's stopping you? And what she told me was that, well, I don't know what to write about. And so that's the first tip I'm going to talk about, knowing what to write about. All right, knowing what to write about, because I feel like that's an area that a lot of people may struggle with. So, when it comes to knowing what to write about, you want to think about your expertise. And then people also get hung up on this. Like, I don't have that much expertise. I don't know what I've done that would make me an expert. And I was saying earlier on that for somebody in the first grade, someone in the third or fourth grade is an expert. Why is that? Because that person has walked through first grade, second grade, third grade. They've walked through at least 2 grades before them. And so they see that person as, wow, this person has expertise in that, in that they've walked, my shoes before. It has nothing to do with IQ. It has nothing to do with how intelligent you are. Just by virtue of the fact that you have walked a certain path before, it makes you an expert. For somebody that just found out, for instance, that their child has special needs, and then the mom that has had a special needs child for the last 10 years, do you think that she has, or even the last 5 years, okay, do you think that that other mom has experiences to share with the other mom who just found out? Of course, because that other mom has walked through that for the last 2 or 3 years. So thank you, Miss Eileen. So when it really comes down to expertise, it has nothing to do with length of time and everything to do with the experience that the person has. Okay. And so when I learned this a few years ago, it really, really helped me because there was so much I knew. I had been to school for a really long time. And there was so much I knew that I could help people with. And so I have seen myself as an expert. So whenever you've done something, for some of you, maybe you know how to use Twitter really well. You know how to use Facebook really well. You know how to use live video really well. You know how to. On this channel, I talk about freelance writing a lot, and that's because over the last 4 years or so, I've been writing content for other people and getting paid, and so I can be considered a freelancer. And everything I learn, I talk about. All right. And so when you do not know what to write your book about, sit down and think, about your experience. What is it in your background and experience that you could write about? There are things you've done for 3, 4, 5 years that you could potentially create your ebook around, and that could make you an expert in that particular thing. And one of the really interesting things I have found online, okay, and sometimes this is even a controversial topic. Sometimes there are people who will boldly come out and start teaching people how to do stuff, and they've only maybe done it for a year or so, and yet they will come out here, be a coach, start coaching people, make 6 figures. And it's usually it's not always because they are the biggest expert in the world, but they have done a good job of packaging what knowledge they do have, all right, and selling it to the right people. All right, so if you don't know what to write about, I really want you to sit down and consider your expertise. And again, your expertise does not have to be 10 years of experience in something. It could be just a year, 2 years, whatever it is. One thing you shouldn't do is fake your knowledge. That is a no. Never fake your knowledge. Never fake that you know more than you do. I don't believe in the phrase fake it until you make it. I really do not believe in that. So don't be that person, okay? So write what you know, all right? And something I learned a long time ago is that when you are writing what you know, write it for, there are 2 sets of people you could write this for. You could either write this for a past version of yourself, or a future or present version of yourself. What do I mean by that? A past version of yourself would be something that you struggled with in the past that you overcame, right? And then a future version of yourself, or present version of yourself, is you taking people on a journey. So in the case of the 1st grade, 4th grade example I gave you, that's somebody that has moved ahead. So the past version of yourself, or I'll use myself as an example, right? When I started learning about online business, I knew nothing, because my whole background was in healthcare and science. I knew nothing about online business. So I had to learn. But then there were certain pet peeves I had. There were certain things that were difficult for me in the beginning. And so now that I've been in online business for since 2012 or so, since I've done that and been profitable since 2015. Since I've done that, right now, I can look back at my 2012 self and write things for that person, things I didn't know, things I struggled with, things that were confusing to me. I can write to that person. Now, you can also write for your present self or future self. So there are people, for instance, on YouTube that create content on their weight loss journey, their keto journey, their paleo journey, whatever. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Miss Eileen. I seen you grow, learn and grow. Oh yes. Thank you so much, Miss Eileen. And yeah, Miss Eileen was around way before me. I really consider you one of the internet OGs. I really do. So yes, exactly. Miss Eileen saw me. I remember I posted on your blog, I think somewhere in Basic Blog Tips, somewhere in 2013 or 2014. That was my first time guest posting for anybody, and you gave me a chance. So thank you so much. That meant so much to me. Anyway, so you have to think about either your past self, all right, or your future present self. So that person, would take the person that you're writing for in the present or future would be taking you on a journey that they themselves are going on. And you can write for those people too. So think about your expertise and think about whether you want to write for a past version of yourself or a present/future version of yourself. Okay. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is you really have to think about who will be reading your book. Think about who will be reading your book. Who are they going to be before they read your book, and who will they be after they read your book? And this is absolutely essential for you to think about, because you know what? One of the reasons why weight loss is such a billion-dollar industry is because we see the before pictures and we see the after pictures. We see how they look like before and after. One of the reasons why people are able to sell hair growing products is because we saw the person's hair before the product, and we we saw the person's hair after the product, right? And so this becomes a really, it's a lucrative, these industries are really lucrative because we see before and we see after. So you always want to think about what is the person going to be before they pick up my book, and who are they going to be after they put down my book? What's the tangible thing they're going to take away from this book? So when I wrote my book, Win at Freelance Writing, right? Links in the bio. But when I wrote my book, Win at Freelance Writing, I wrote it specifically for people that were new to freelance writing or had just discovered freelance writing, and then people who had not yet or wanted to make their first $1,000 to $5,000 as a freelance writer per month. Now, for somebody who has already made $10,000 per month consistently as a freelance writer, this book is not for them. For somebody that has been writing for the last 3 years and maybe is making like $3,000, $4,000 consistently as a writer, this book is not for them. But for somebody that is brand new to freelance writing or just got introduced to the idea of online business and that freelance writing could be a path they could move in, this book, but they haven't made any money from their writing, this book was for those people to discover how they can come up with a plan, all right, to start making their first $1,000 to $5,000 as a freelancer. So this book was specific to these people. I wasn't writing for any other person except this person who was completely new. So it's really important for you to think about and define who will be reading your book, because if you don't define it, you'll be all over the place. And let me tell you a quick story about that book. All right, when I started writing When at Freelance Writing, actually, I was going to write it to a general freelancing audience. I wasn't even writing it specifically for freelance writers, but I remember I went to my mastermind meeting. Right. I went to a mastermind meeting and I was talking about the book. And they said, well, why are you trying to write it for freelancers? And why aren't you just trying to write it for freelance writers? And I gave some silly excuse like why. And they're like, no. Just write it specifically to people that want to get started with freelance writing. And I said, you guys are right. So I wrote it specifically for that new freelance writer that wanted to do that. So that was a very specific audience person, a person that I wanted to write to. And there was a tangible thing they would come away with by the time they were done, because I had a checklist attached to the book, or a checklist that people can sign up for when they buy the book. And in that checklist, I give them the whole checklist of all the things they need to be doing to launch and then also get their first 1 or 2 or 3 paying clients so that they can hit those income milestones. And so that's the thing. Before they pick up my book, they know very little about freelance writing and what they can do to actually grow their business. By the time they are done, they have a basic framework for establishing themselves as a freelance writer so that they can make their first $1,000 to $5,000 as a freelance writer. All right. So that's who I wrote the book for. So you really need to think about who is this book for and what is it going to help them accomplish. All right. Number 3 is, what is the promise of the book? And this is kind of tied to the point I just discussed. Okay. So 3 is, what is the promise of your book? All right. So if you pick up any sales book, any basic sales book, okay, one of the lessons that you will learn in that sales book is that people have innate needs that they want to have met. There is in sociology and in social science, there's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? People want to have food to eat. People want to have clothes. And then as you go up the hierarchy, people want to look more beautiful. Once their basic needs of food and shelter are met, they want to have security. And then once security is met, now they want to be able to probably earn more money or earn more power, sleep better, be more attractive, be funnier, be happier, right? So you have all these things that people have needs for. These are needs that people have. You really, really have to tie the promise of your book to one of these needs. You really have to tie the promise of your book to one of these needs. So is your book, at the end of your book, is it going to make them happier? Is it going to make them more funny? Is it going to help them be more attractive, sleep better, earn more money, save more money? Tie the promise of your book to one of these needs, because innately this is what people want. Naturally, this is what we all crave for. Okay, so it's absolutely important for you to really, really think about that in writing and creating your book. Okay, so what's the promise of your book? All right. So tip number 4 would be writing the book, actually writing the book. And if you are going to, before I jump into tip number 4, if you're going to write books online, write and sell books online, it's going to be important for you to learn how to sell. Okay, learning how to sell is absolutely going to be important. I have 2 books here. One is the Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy, and then there's one called The Ultimate Marketing Plan by Dan Kennedy. Both of these are really good books. Any book written by Zig Ziglar is also great as far as selling is concerned. And so you really want to tap into that. Okay, you really, really want to tap into that, into selling books, learning everything that you can about selling. And I just shared some of the knowledge I've acquired from reading selling books, which is people want to be fed, people want to earn more money, people want to be funnier, people, and that's why, like, beauty, for instance, is such a billion-dollar industry. People want to look good, right? It's not because people are vain. People want to look good so that possibly they could be more desirable to somebody else. So really, you have to think about, how does this thing tie into people's innate needs to be funnier, to be more beautiful, to earn more money, to save more money, all of these things. All right. Okay. So now, writing your book. When I started coaching first-time nonfiction authors, one of one of my clients, she told me, she said, I've had this book idea for years, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And this is the thing I told her that allowed her within 6 weeks to write about 75 to 80% of her book, when she hadn't written it for years. She had the idea for years, and within 6 weeks, she had an almost complete manuscript. This is what I told her. I said, sit down for 30 minutes every single day, set a timer, and during that time, do nothing but write. Do absolutely nothing but write and write and write. And when that timer goes off, you're done writing for the day. So the first week she tried it, and then she came back to me and she said, gee, it worked. And actually, when I sat down to write for 30 minutes, at the end of it, I didn't want to stop. I ended up writing for about an hour. Okay. So even if you don't want to do this for an hour, just sitting down, setting a timer for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and just writing. Don't edit yourself. Don't try to be fancy with the words. Just write the words that come to your mind. Write the words that come to your mind. Just write them down. Right? You can edit later. Right now, I believe that you cannot edit. You cannot edit a blank sheet. You can't. Right? But you can edit something that you've written. You can't edit a blank sheet, but you can definitely edit something that you've written. All right. So all I told her was, just keep writing, right? Just write for 30 minutes every single day, set a timer and go. Don't edit yourself. Don't try to be perfect. Just write. And by the end of 6 weeks, a book that she had been struggling with to actually put out for years was almost done within 6 weeks. So this is something that is doable. It is possible. Just sitting down to write 30 minutes a day without editing yourself, without trying to judge yourself for writing, is a really, really helpful strategy to actually getting a book done. This is how I finished a lot of my books, is just by doing this. And like I said, you can always go back and edit later, but what you can do is edit a blank page. So just remember that. Okay. So that is tip number 4. So far we've gone through 4 tips. I want to just go over them again. The first one is that write your expertise, write what you know about. Think about something that you've done for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, and think about somebody who doesn't even have that experience and write to that person. Or if you're currently on a journey, write to that person. Okay. Number 2, you have to really think about who will be reading this. Who will they be before they pick up my book? And who will they be after they put down my book? What is the tangible result they are going to get from picking up my book and reading my book? Is it going to help them make more money? And that ties into tip number 3, right? What is the promise of your book? And this promise of your book really needs to be tied to the innate needs of people. And again, I told you about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can go check this out after this video. You can go Google it. Okay, people want to be fed, people want to have shelter, right? And then after they have food and shelter, people want to have security. After they have security, people then want to start, that's when people start to think about things that make them self-actualize. They want to think about art. If somebody's hungry, they're not thinking about appreciating art. Okay, if somebody is in a war zone, they are hardly thinking about making more money. They're just thinking about how to stay secure. All right, so any of these things that are tied into, but then when they have all these needs, then next the need will be, oh, how do I make more money and save more money for my kids in college? How do I build my dream home? Right, but all of these needs are for people at different levels in life, different maybe socioeconomic levels, but we all have innate needs, and you want your book to tie into those innate needs. And so in the case of my book, Win at Freelance Writing, what need was that fulfilling? That need was the need of, oh, I want to be able to work from home, and freelance writing offers me that opportunity. So let me check that out, right? So that need to be able to work from home, to be able to make more money from home, that is the need that my book met. And this is why a book like Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Work Week also really worked well, right? Because there are lots of people out there that want to know, how do I work less and make more money, right? And a lot of people have attributed the fact that they've become entrepreneurs, or the fact that they've broken out of the 9 to 5 from that particular book. I've heard multiple entrepreneurs say this. And so he really was speaking to a specific need that people had. So the promise of your book really has to align with people's innate need to do one thing or the other. All right. And so looking at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is really helpful in that regard. All right. And then number 4 tip is writing your book. All right. You can get it done in just 30 minutes per day. And I gave you the example of my writing client. Oh my goodness, Stephanie. Hey, you're one of them. The 4-Hour Work Week changed your whole. Yes, absolutely. That book was that. But I read it a long time ago. I haven't picked it up again. But yep. It was a book. It was a book. It is a book still. But the point I was trying to make with that, right, is the fact that Tim Ferriss knew that this is what people want. People want to break free from the 9 to 5, or people want to break free from always having to be in an office. And if that's your kind of group, that's fine. I'm not against 9 to 5 jobs. Listen, I know that there are a lot of online influencers out there that don't like 9 to 5 jobs, and even Stephanie kind of pokes at it a lot, and that's fine. And different strokes for different folks. One of the things I will say is that just be in a place where you know that you can be financially happy, right? And if that means having a part-time job so that you can focus on your passion projects, which is what I'm doing, or it is having a full-time job and having the business and having the business as your side project, or whether you want to go full-time entrepreneur, it's all up to you. Right? Just don't let anybody convince you to do something that you don't want to do. But if you want to do it, then jump out for it. Okay. Stephanie is laughing. Yes. You missed the thing. I know, right? That's the one thing for sure. That's the one thing for sure. Anyway, thank you to all those of you that are coming in. I appreciate you coming in. So Today we're talking about 5 tips to write and sell your next or first ebook. Okay. I went over the first 4 tips. I'll go over them again, but let me share tip number 5. Tip number 5, you really have to think about, how am I going to be marketing my book? You need a launch plan. You cannot just be putting books out here and not having a launch plan for them. Okay. There has to be some kind of launch plan for the book. So make sure that before, and this is what I work with my coaching clients on, is I tell them, okay, so now we have a book. We don't just want to put it out there in the world. And I've done this before. So anything I've done before that didn't work, this is why I tell you, okay, don't just put it out there. It's not going to sell if you just upload it to Amazon and tell your friends and family. Telling your friends and family is great, but your friends and family are most likely not your most ideal audience. They're going to buy it out of sympathy and because they know you and love you. Sorry. We all know that's true. They're going to do that, okay, but they're not going to be the ones necessarily who hire you to speak at an event or who hire you to coach them, right? Even though some of my friends have paid me. So, I mean, that can definitely change. But you really want to think about a marketing plan for your book, a launch plan for your book. And where I was saying this earlier, that one of the best things about having digital products, ebooks, courses, but because I'm talking about ebooks today, is the fact that you can take that anywhere with you. You can be living in, I don't know, Barbados. And then there could be people buying your digital products and you're earning money in Barbados, sitting on a beach somewhere, enjoying the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. And people could be buying your ebooks and the book could be working for you 24/7 and you don't have to necessarily touch it, as long as you have a marketing plan in place. Okay. As long as you have a marketing plan in place. So you want to think about, are you going to sell this book through emails? And I've done that, where when people sign up for my email list, right? Let's say they sign up for, I intentionally at a point, and I still do this, I specifically would create freebies that were tied to my paid products. So I would create a freebie. So for instance, when I had the ebook, I've now retired that ebook, How to Become a Social Media Manager. I had a freebie for specifically how to become a social media manager. And when people sign up for that freebie, they got the freebie. But then in the PS of that particular email, all right, if you don't use PSs in your email, you should. And one of the things about, I just learned about sales techniques is, the PS is something sometimes people just jump to. So PS is a postscript. You write the email and then you write a PS underneath it, right? In the PS of that first email I sent to people, I would put a link to the digital product and just say this. I'd say, I see that you signed up for this freebie. If you're serious about taking this to the next level, here is an ebook I've written on it. So it was a $29 ebook. And so I said, this is an ebook I have that you can check out that will help you do, and I'll give them a promise that would allow them to do that. So in the case of becoming a social media manager, I would say, check out my ebook, Become a 30-Day Social Media Manager, that gives you a 30-day plan on becoming a social media manager. And that email sold a lot of books. Okay, that particular email was just, I think I would send that email, and then I'll send an email that like 2 or 3 emails after that email, and all of them would give value first, but then I'd redirect them to the book. So 3 or 4 emails these people would get once they signed up for my email list, and all of them mentioned the book. Okay. So you can use emails to sell your book. You can also use content to sell your books. So if you're somebody that consistently or very commonly creates content, like if you're a YouTube creator like me, you have a podcast or you have a blog, I want you every single time. Well, maybe not every single time, but I want you to mention your products and your content. It is your content and it's your product, and you need to get paid, right? So tie whatever it is that you're doing to your paid products, your paid ebooks. Okay, so for instance, in this video alone, I've mentioned my book, Win at Freelance Writing, so many times. I've if I was to count, probably mention it 20 times. And I'm using them, I use it as an example in everything that I'm saying in this video. And I'll say to people, the links are all in the description if you want to check out my ebooks. Right. So if you create content on a consistent basis, be always drop the fact that you have ebooks, drop the fact that you have digital products. Okay, drop that in there. All right, collaborations. The way you grow your authority, the way you grow your audience is by collaborating with other people. And if this is making sense so far, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't said hello, just drop me a hello in the comments. I just want to be able to say hi. But as you create content, as you send out emails, people are going to find out about you. But one of the things I find that is so powerful is if you find somebody that is creating content for an audience that is parallel to yours, or is targeted to that audience that you would like to attract into your business, go find out how you can collaborate with them. It's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes it takes years of nurturing a particular friendship or a particular relationship for it to result in you being on somebody's podcast. I remember last year I pitched somebody's podcast, right? And I didn't really know the person, but I wrote a pretty good pitch, if I may say so myself. And the person was super excited to have me on their podcast, but it didn't take almost a year until I was able to get on their podcast. But I had to keep that communication line open, right? Eventually, I did get on her podcast, and it hasn't aired yet, but I know that when it airs, it's going to be something that brings a lot of new people into my business. And I'm very, very happy about that. Earlier on in, a few weeks ago, I was on Mediavine's Summer Talks. And that was a huge opportunity for me to collaborate with such a big brand, which is Mediavine. And because of that, I had a freebie that I put out, and about almost 40 people signed up for that freebie. All right. I didn't have a digital product or an ebook attached to that, but if I did, I'm very confident that I would have had some sales. So you always want to be collaborating, finding ways to collaborate. It doesn't happen quickly, but once it does happen, it does grow your business. Okay. I've also and now that I have a book on Amazon, I've also used Amazon ads to sell my books. Now, I tried Amazon ads recently and it did work out, and the cost was really low. So the price of Amazon ads right now is super cheap. And it reminds me of when Facebook ads first started, super cheap. But now Facebook ads are pretty pricey, or can get expensive really quickly. So Amazon ads are something that are really not that much right now. And so that is another way that you can get your book out there in front of people. So I really want you to, once you have written, I'm going to go over the first 4 tips, but this is tip number 5 is if you write the book, please create a marketing plan. How are you going to get your book out there? Are you going to get it out there through your emails, through your content, through collabs? Maybe you decide that once or twice a week, you're going to post about your ebook on your social media and really talk, or you're going to pull out something from your ebook and talk about it, or you're actually going to bring, and I wish I had my ebook here with me. Oh, I do. It's on my bookshelf. I'll grab it really quickly. Right. So, or you could have, one of the things I do is I'll have my ebook with me. Okay. So this is my ebook right here. This is my ebook right here. I'm trying to see with the lighting. Okay, yeah, this is my ebook. This is the proof of my ebook, right? So sometimes I'll be doing a video and I'll have it beside me, and I'll say something like, "Hey there, bosses. This is Jean Entre here. I'm the author of Win at Freelance Writing." So it's like, I'm the author. You better go buy this book, And where did I learn that from? I learned that from Sean Cannell. Sean Cannell is a creator here on YouTube who has created multiple successful channels, and he released a book about 2 years ago. He still talks about the book. He'll be like, "If this is the first time that we're meeting, my name is Sean Cannell, and I'm the author of what's his book? YouTube secrets, and it's like he wrote that book 2 years ago, but he still holds his book, so never be ashamed to be like holding your book on your videos, or talking about your book on your podcast. Have a plan to always get the word out about your book. So that was tip number 5. Have a marketing plan for your book. All right. So tip number 1 was, if you don't know what to write about, think about a past version of yourself or a future or / present version of yourself. Okay. And what that means is that think about where you used to be and what you didn't used to enjoy. Stephanie's here and Miss Eileen was here earlier, but Stephanie has been house sitting for years now. And for somebody that is just getting started, she's going to have experience to share with them, right? Or even somebody that just started maybe 6 months ago who has had their first house. So there's a lot that Stephanie can still teach them. So that's you want to think about your past self or your future / present self. Okay. You want to think about who will be reading this book. Define an audience for who's going to read the book. All right. You really need to define it. You can't just write your book for everybody. It's not for everybody. All right. Who will they be before they read the book, and who will they be after they read your book? What's the promise of your book? That's number 3, right? And is the promise of your book tied to the innate needs that people have about life? And those innate needs include, being happier, being funnier, being more attractive, sleeping better, earning more money, saving more money, all that good stuff. Okay. That's what's the promise of your book and how it ties into the needs of people. Writing your book, sit down 30 minutes a day, set a timer, write that book. Then number 5, you always have to before you put your book out there, think of a marketing plan. Think of how you're going to generate consistent sales of your ebook. And if you can do that, you'll be good. So that's what I wanted to share with you. 5 tips. If you have questions, I'll take them. I'll be more than happy to take those questions. Yeah. And if this video was helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. One of the things I love about ebooks, and I think I didn't talk about it on this video, is the fact that your book is your 24-hour PR agent. Think of it that way. If you do a good job of marketing your book, you're going to do a good job of through your book selling your expertise, selling your authority, so establishing your authority and in the minds of people. Right. And it's going to be your 24/7 PR agent. People are going to invite you for talks, and people are going to invite you to come, to come be on their lives because of your books. Right. And another thing too is that the sale of your book doesn't just end. Like, that's not the only income potential of a book, right? So this is not the only income potential for my book. I could turn this, and I could turn this into a whole course, right? So this can be turned into an in-depth course, right? So there's only so much you can show people in a book, but you can do so much more with screen capture and all that in a course. And I've done that. You can turn it into you can take a few pages of this and turn it. The other day I was reading this and I was like, wow, there are a few things in here that are a whole talk. I could create a whole talk around. And so that could be your signature talk that you get paid $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to go speak about one thing in your book. Your book can be turned into a live event. And so really don't think about, okay, I created the ebook and it ends there. Yes, you will make money from that, but the potential of the income that can be made is enormous. Anyway, that's where I will end this stream today. If you don't have any questions, thank you all so much for coming on live. I really, really do appreciate you all, and you have a fantastic Saturday.